C2 tooling comes in all shapes and sizes as we've learned throughout this course. Some can be instantaneous socket-like connections, others can maintain a steady pulling connection, and others can be so rudimentary that you can only handle one implant at a time. However, there are quite a few tools out there that facilitate a multi-user experience for C2s that encourage red team collaboration. The most common one that I see is TeamServer. Now, TeamServer is a multi-user C2 service that comes with Cobalt Strike. This allows red teams to not only share data, but actually share hosts they've compromised and connections, all in one place. Now, obviously, Cobalt Strike is a paid tool, and it's fairly expensive for someone who is learning at home. Fortunately, the open source version of Armitage exists, and there is also a free trial of Cobalt Strike. Now, if you choose to use Armitage like we are in this example, it's not going to be as refined as Cobalt Strike, but we can still get a taste for what TeamServer is like, as Armitage also supports this feature. So we're going to hop into our C2 server just like normal and get TeamServer set up. Now, if you're using the Kali instance like I have been the whole time throughout this course, you can just simply apt install Armitage, and Armitage will actually come with TeamServer. So if you just run TeamServer, it kind of gives you the syntax for what it's expecting. It needs an IP to bind to. It says external IP, but it means the IP that is going to be facing outward for this system. In our case, it's going to be the interface that people are going to be connecting to, and that's already tied for us to even a public DNS entry like it's been this whole time at the udemy-c2 subdomain. So all we really have to do is specify that interface IP and then a password for the team. In my case, I'm going to make it lolhacks. So we hit enter, and it's going to generate the SSL certs, start the relevant Metasploit daemons, and in a matter of about 20 seconds, it should be up and running. All right, it's starting up now, and it should give us a fingerprint. So whenever I connect, I can actually try to match this up to make sure I'm connecting to the right team server. I'm not getting man in the middle or anything like that, but I now have this Kali box over here with Armitage also set up, so I'll just start up Armitage. And I've already pre-filled in here. I've got my domain for udemy-c2.injection.sh. So this is pointing at the C2 server. If you're using the Terraform code that's been supplied throughout the course, this port's already exposed for you for the purpose of TeamServer. Then we just need to make sure we're specifying the correct password, in our case of lolhacks. Then we'll connect. And it looks like we've got our fingerprint, which looks about right from what we've seen before. And then we'll specify our nickname. So I'll use my handle, and we'll join. And this should load us up a TeamServer instance where we can see there's actually a log here where I can say, hey. So the event log also kind of doubles as a chat. And if we go back over to this TeamServer, we can actually see, hey, I joined. And if other people were to join this, we'd all be sharing the same instance. It's kind of hard to emulate that with this current setup and show that kind of like on multiple displays and stuff, but that's all it takes to set it up. Now anybody could join this TeamServer, and we could start collaborating and attacking together. Now, Armitage doesn't play so nice with the latest version of Metasploit, so just keep that in mind. Usually, I steer clear of Armitage outside of CTF games and non-professional hacking and research, just because of the stability issues. That said, it is always a tool that I love to play around in for fun. Before we close out this little bonus lecture, I just want to give a small shout out to some other multi-user C2 projects that I think you all should check out and play around with. The first one on my list is Sliver C2. This is a Golang-based C2 implement with many features developed by Bishop Fox. It's open source, but it is very much an alpha, so use it at your own risk. But that's true of all C2 tooling, as we've learned. Make sure you do your research and know your tools. Not too long ago, the Empire project was discontinued like we talked about in our Scenario 2 lectures, but shortly after the original maintainers made that decision, BC Security picked up a fork and proceeded to continue development. I've kind of mentioned all of this already, but I want to specific application they made called Starkiller. Starkiller uses Empire's REST API to facilitate an Electron app GUI-based experience. With this, they've also implemented a neat multi-user mode. So I encourage you to go use your newfound Empire experience, go set that up, and see how it works as well. Many of the other C2 tools that I have listed in our references claim support for multi-users as well. This is including Faction C2 and Covenant. So keep an eye on those as you explore. The last honorable mention I'll make is an odd one. If you recall, we used SaltStack at the very beginning of this course to demonstrate some DevOps concepts. Well, SaltStack actually makes for a pretty great C2 if you really want to use it that way. Check out that Red Team Village talk or blog post that I keep referencing to learn more about that. But SaltStack is neat in the way that it's a tool on a box, not an app that you have to sync into. Any user with permissions to use SaltStack commands can execute them on the box without disturbing other users. Now, obviously there is a sync or order of operations issue with this. If I execute a long enough action on a minion and you try to as well, I'm going to be blocking you until mine completes. However, this is generally true of any system or process. I think some multi-user C2 stuff gets around this by trying to spawn multiple processes or threads, but that can cause bugs sometimes too. So it really just depends. It's a complex problem, and none of these solutions are incorrect, but it's all about what works best for you and your team, and frankly, for the architecture of whatever the system is. Now, of course, I don't recommend using SaltStack as a C2 out of the box, but it is open source, and I would advocate that it's not a bad idea for red teams to customize it and see what they could do. Those are all my honorable mentions, and that concludes this bonus lecture. I hope you all enjoyed it.